Luka Doncic is by far one of the quickest rising young superstars in the history of the game of basketball. It's hard to think of any other players who were able to climb the NBA rankings as fast as Doncic has. And the way his game has evolved in just 2 seasons is jaw-dropping. Doncic has elevated his name into the top NBA players conversation alongside the man who will enter the 2021 season as still the best basketball player on the planet at age 37, LeBron James. Usually, each NBA star's ascension to the league's best conversation is through a very different path. But there's something in particular that has allowed James to remain in firm control of the NBA's throne for over a decade that has also helped Doncic climb up the rankings so quickly. Today, we will take a look at what makes Luka Doncic and LeBron James so impossibly difficult to guard. But before we do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Luka Doncic and LeBron James are both the perfect prototypical example of what NBA teams look for in a franchise player. A lengthy, versatile leader that can control the team's offense and create offense against anybody and under any circumstances. And while both have this extremely rare trait, they are still 2 very different players in terms of how they create offense. LeBron is much more of a physically imposing and dominant player. James uses his Superman body to attack the rim with more ease, as almost 1/2 of his shots come right at the rim. There, he shoots 68%, good for 85th percentile among forwards. That means he was better than 85% of the rest of the league's forwards, which is a pretty nice mark considering how many of his shots come in close. Not surprisingly, he ranks much lower when looking at three-point numbers. Only 30% of LeBron's total shots are threes. He makes 34% of his threes, which is a mediocre mark compared to the rest of the forwards, but good enough to keep his defenders honest. What is surprising is that James actually shot 46% from the corners this year, albeit on low volume. Scoring at a high clip isn't all the king can do, as he's also one of the league's elite playmakers. LeBron James has a ridiculously impressive 47.7 assist percentage, meaning he assisted almost 1/2 of all the Los Angeles Lakers' shots. As you'd expect, that's the highest mark not only among forwards but in all of the NBA. Remember, James became an assist champion for the first time in his career this 2020, dishing out 10.2 assists per game. LeBron has the ball in his hands an awful lot, but the returns of it have proven to be great. James is a unique scorer and an exceptional playmaker. With a 36.2% usage rate, he led all forwards in the NBA this year. On the other hand, Luka Doncic's scoring isn't aided by his physical force as much as in LeBron's case. Luka relies more on difficult shot making and a crazy good handle despite not being nearly as athletic or explosive as most other players in the league. And in all honesty, Doncic has shown he doesn't need that elite athleticism to be a problem. He is just superiorly skilled in every offensive facet of the game. And still, he's a better athlete than most people give him credit for. Unlike LeBron, Luka's shot distribution is much more even. Almost 40% of his shots are threes, and mostly very difficult threes, while 33% of his shots come at the rim and 25% are short middies. Other than Doncic's numbers at the rim, you'd think he's a terrible scorer if you looked at his percentages alone. Luka shot 72% at the rim on very high volume, as only big men like Giannis Antetokounmpo or Anthony Davis shot as good as Luka did while taking more than Doncic's 6+ rim shots per game. He shot 33% from 3 and 41% from the mid-range, which again are numbers that would make anybody question whether he is truly a superstar. But the splits alone ignore the aforementioned difficulty of his shots. Only about 14% of Doncic's threes were catch-and-shoot attempts, with the rest being a combination of step-backs, pull-ups, and all sorts of very difficult threes off the dribble. If anything, his 33% accuracy rate from 3 is actually surprising considering almost 9 out of every 10 threes he takes are off-the-dribble shots. Now, much like LeBron, Luka is an amazing playmaker. He has 45.3% assist percentage, the best mark among wings in the league per cleaning the glass. Doncic was 3rd in the league in assists with 8.8 per game, just behind Trae Young and James. He also led the entire league in usage rate at 40.7%. Not only is this unheard of for a second-year player, but it's ridiculous considering he's only 21 years old and he's already dominating the game. He always knows what to do with the ball in his hands and makes the right decision much more often than not. Does this sound anything like the king? If you've been paying close attention, chances are you identified the pattern already. LeBron and Luka are so alike yet so different at the same time, but they both have one special ingredient that has helped them make fools out of defenders every time they step on the court. Their offense is so similar and different, they couldn't be farther away when it comes to how they score. James is very paint dominant, while Luka prefers creating for himself off the dribble. But if you look at their playmaking, court vision, and awareness, it's almost like they have the exact same genius mind. And the reason why they're so impossibly difficult to guard is their absurd basketball IQ. There have been many other players with great minds in the history of basketball. Think about legends like Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, and Phil Jackson, or current-day stars like Draymond Green and Chris Paul. While it's hard to measure an intangible like basketball IQ, LeBron and Doncic are easily comparable with these guys in terms of IQ. The difference is that nobody but these two can combine that elite basketball IQ with actual execution on the court. Chris Paul may be able to immediately spot a play in his head even when time is running off the clock. But sometimes that play will never materialize because Paul's height and length are big limitations, as was the case with Nash and Kidd. Draymond Green could also spot an amazing sequence in his head, but he's not dangerous at all as a scoring threat and won't blow by you or step back for a three to score over you. LeBron James and Luka Doncic have the uniqueness of being able to translate that amazing basketball IQ into tangible and amazing plays on the court. Yes, their 6'8" and 6'7" frames, respectively, are a very big reason that they have a huge advantage, but you still won't find many players at that size that can do what these two can. Due to his also elite basketball IQ and superior athletic gifts, and if things go right and he continues developing his game, Ben Simmons is the only other player that could come close to being as difficult to guard as James and Luka are. Their decision-making is quicker than a hiccup. Before you know it, they already hit an open cutter or blew by you in the blink of an eye. They see the game on a whole different landscape. That's why they are both triple-double threats every single game. Few players have as many different ways of making you pay on the offensive end as James and Doncic have. And the best part about it, they're not the only ones who benefit from it, as they immediately make their teammates better just by being on the court. LeBron and Doncic are a different breed. We expected James to be all-time great good since his debut, but Luka has surprised us all not because of what he's shown he can do. We knew what his skill set was and how good it would translate into the NBA. But the quickness in which he has asserted himself as an elite NBA player alongside a guy like LeBron James is unmatched. And that's all thanks to their elite basketball IQ. Do you think LeBron James and Luka Doncic have the highest basketball IQ in the NBA? Tell us in the comments down below. And once again, make sure to leave a like on this video and hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching another Swish Central video, and join us next time for more NBA basketball content.